بسم الله إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله تعالى وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. My dear brothers and sisters, I welcome you back our Hajj presentation. Today is the day of the 23rd of Sha'ban, 1444 years after the Hijrah, or the migration of our beloved Prophet ﷺ, which coincides with May 13, 2023. Inshallah, we are going to talk about what type of Hajj or which Hajj I should perform. There are three descriptions of Hajj we have in the Sunnah. One is known as the Hajjet-Tamattu, and then other one is known as Hajj-Qiran, and the third one is known as Ifrad. If these all three Hajj forms are valid and acceptable, can I just choose any one of them, or should I choose, or is there any preference, or should I must choose a certain type at a certain scenario? And this is exactly what we're going to discuss inshallah today. But before that, I want to refer to like how are the ways that you can prepare yourself other than watching the slides and so on and so forth. You should have three things. If you study it well, I think it would help you to understand the slides better. First is the hadith of Jabir ibn Abdullah radiallahu anhu, which is recorded by Imam Muslim and others. And this basically describes the Hajj of the Prophet ﷺ. Of course, not everything is there, but in totality it is there. And this is the umda or the marje of the Hajj of the Prophet ﷺ. If anybody wants to see the Hajj of the Prophet ﷺ, they will definitely have to study the hadith of Jabir radiallahu anhu. It's a very beautiful hadith, and that's one thing that you should study. Second, you should have two notes with you all the time. One is the book of Sheikh Muhammad Nasiruddin al-Albani, where he compiled the rites of the Hajj in a very beautiful way. And also the good part of this book is it also, the Sheikh, as you know, there was a great muhaddith, and he was the master of the tasfiyah wa tarbiyah. So he would, in every single occasion, he would mention what are the bid'ahs that you will find, what are the things, so that he can, Muslims are aware of the things not supposed to be done, because we have this tendency of copying and pasting. So if you know those problems, and you will see more most likely over there, don't follow any of those things. But in general, the description is very beautifully underlined or outlined in this specific booklet we have from the Sheikh, and it's translated also. Those of the brothers and sisters who are in my Knowledge for Friends group, inshallah, I'm going to post those things tonight, so you can have those printed out and have with you when you go for Hajj. The third is a very important handout that is done by our Sheikh Hassan Abdul Fattah al-Barqawi. Very easy and very a reference point for all of us. We usually, when we go for Umrah and Hajj, we keep it with us so that we can look through if we forget something and so on and so forth. The deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is complete. So we do not need anything else other than how the Prophet ﷺ performed the Hajj. We have this famous statement from our mother Aisha radiallahu anha, which is reported by Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah ta'ala on the authority of Masruq. Masruq was the student of our mother Aisha, and Aisha radiallahu anha قالت من حدثك أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كتم شيئا من الوحي فلا تصدقه. If anybody tells you that the Prophet ﷺ hid something of the religion, do not believe him. Inna Allah ta'ala yaqul, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuha rasul, O the messenger, balligh ma unzila ilayk, proclaim what has been revealed to you, make tabligh, teach the people, explain the message that has been sent to you. بَلِّغْ مَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكَ مِنْ رَبِّكَ, what is from your Lord, meaning you have to keep the authenticity of what comes to you from your Lord. وَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلْ, and if you do not do it this way, i.e. you present it to the people as it is revealed to you, فَمَا بَلَّغْتَ رِسَالَتَ, then you have not conveyed the message. So the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is our direct connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our direct connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why the Prophet ﷺ, we have the hadith of Jabir radiallahu anhu. He said that the Prophet ﷺ was on his camel and he threw the jamarat on the day of the Nahar, on the day of the Eid, and he said, لِتَأْخُذُوا مَنَاسِكَكُمْ لِتَأْخُذُوا مَنَاسِكَكُمْ. He said, I did this so you can learn the manasik of the Hajj from me, because I'm not sure, the Prophet continued, I'm not sure whether I will be able to perform another Hajj after this Hajj. As we know, this was the only Hajj he did after he migrated to Al-Madinah. The only and the last Hajj, and the Hajj which was witnessed by many of the companions, so that they could learn the manasik or the rites of the Hajj directly from the Prophet ﷺ. That Hajj is still preserved. But you have to know the technique, how to read those books, and these are the materials that I'm referring to, inshallah, will help you to see those, as you will see, as if you see the Hajj of the Prophet ﷺ with your own eyes. There was this great Imam Hassan ibn Ali al-Barbahari, and he was one of the colleagues of the companion of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahmatullahi alayhi. Imam Hassan ibn Ali al-Barbahari died in the year 329 Hijri. And he gave a warning that is so beautiful. In those days, there were scholars of hadith in the lands of the Muslims. Multiple scholars of hadith, multiple students of knowledge. We don't have that much today. And look at what he said, and which is applicable in his time, then definitely it's applicable in our time. He said, and beware of the smallest of the newly invented matters, as the small innovations due to repetition become large innovations. And in that way, every innovation introduced in this ummah began as a small innovation, resembling something correct, and thus is the one who falls into it enticed. Meaning he's saying that big things that is now widespread, that started small, and it kind of matched the religion. So that's why people fell into it. Who fell into it? Those who don't study the revelation properly from the scholars, understanding the meaning and so on and so forth. Then he is not able to leave it because he gets cling to it, attached to it. Some of it grows and becomes part of the religion practiced as such, meaning practiced by the people, and it looks like to be the religion of Islam. So examine. So he's saying, Imam al-Barbahari is saying, please examine. May Allah have mercy upon you, everything that people of your time say, and do not make haste in accepting it until you ask and find out. Meaning he's saying, whatever you see people doing in your time, don't just copy paste it. Verify. How do you verify? He's saying, did any of the companions of the Prophet or any of the people of knowledge speak about it? So if you find a narration from them, then accept it. Meaning if you have an authentic narration from the Prophet and the Sahaba, then accept it and do not leave it for anything else. And do not prefer anything, and do not prefer anything over it, and thus fall into the fire. Meaning you will be led to the innovation. And you should know, may Allah have mercy upon you, that a worshipper's Islam is not complete until he is a follower of proof, consenting and submitting to the truth. So whoever claims that anything remains of Islam which the companions of the Messenger ﷺ did not fully explain it to us, then he has invented a lie against them, and that is enough for him that he has reviled them, meaning he has spoken ill about the companions. So he is an innovator, misguided, and he is misguiding others, introducing into Islam what does not belong to it. This is a profound advice for the whole deen. One of the reasons people innovate and practice things because they do not consider the sunnah to be enough and important for them. And this is why they bring things from their own selves and they innovate, and people copy and paste it until everybody does it, and now it looks like the religion. This is something that we have to learn and warn against when we see those kind of activities and actions being done in our community, in our society, in our culture, etc. So let's now move on to the main topic of our discussion today, the different types of Hajj. Let's talk first about the Hajj, which is known as Hajj-Qiran. Hajj-Qiran is when a person performs Umrah and Hajj with one ihram. There are two tawafs. First tawaf is a tawaf of the Qudum or the tawaf of the Umrah. And one sa'i that suffices for Hajj and Umrah, an obligatory slaughtering of animal. And the Hajji has to enter the miqat with the animal. So a Hajji, when he enters the miqat, the boundary of the Hajj, when he enters the miqat with the animal and he proclaims his Hajj and Umrah, he enters a ihram and then he goes and performs his Umrah. Okay, and then he continues to wear his ihram all the way until he finishes his Hajj. So what did he do? He did the Hajj and Umrah with one ihram. So there is the sa'i, the tawaf of the Umrah and the tawaf of the Hajj, and one sa'i between Safa and Marwa should suffice, but if he wants to do two, that's fine. And there is an obligatory slaughtering of an animal. This is called Hajj-Qiran. Then you have Hajj-Ifrad. Hajj-Ifrad from, Hajj only. Fard, Fardun Wahid. One, meaning there is no Umrah associated with it. Only Hajj. When a person enters miqat with the intention of Hajj only, there are two tawafs. The first tawaf is tawaf al-Qudum, meaning the tawaf of the arrival, and one sa'i, and there is no obligatory slaughtering. Hajji does not perform Umrah, so he does perform the Hajj. And the third one is Hajjet-Tamattu. This is a Hajj when a person performs Umrah and Hajj with two ihram. Okay, there are two tawafs. The first tawaf is the tawaf of Qudum or the tawaf of Umrah. There are two sa'i. The first sa'i is the sa'i of Umrah and the second is the sa'i of the Hajj, and the obligatory slaughtering of the animal. He and she comes out of the ihram after Umrah completely. So he first goes and he performs the Umrah, and after he does the tawaf and the sa'i, he cuts his hair and he exits the ihram completely. Completely means everything becomes halal for him. Whatever was haram for him during the ihram, everything becomes halal for him. And then he re-enters the ihram of the Hajj on the 8th of Dhul Hijjah. This is the kind of the main difference between the first Hajj-Qiran and Hajjet-Tamattu. Hajj-Qiran, Qarana, you associate both Hajj and Umrah, join them with one ihram. And Tamattu is when you separate the Hajj and Umrah and Hajj, and you do it two separate ihram. Now, which Hajj should I perform? Which Hajj did the Prophet ﷺ perform? The Hajjatul Wada or the last Hajj, what was the type of Hajj that he performed? Is Hajjet-Tamattu the best Hajj? Does it mean other forms are allowed? Decide now and learn. The best and the most applicable to our situation is Hajjet-Tamattu. This is the generally all the Hajjis should perform, Hajjet-Tamattu. But what Hajj did the Prophet ﷺ perform? So let's talk about what the Prophet ﷺ did. The Prophet ﷺ, the Sahaba, when they entered the miqat, some of them had their animal with them, and the Prophet ﷺ was one of them. Animal meaning animal of the Hajj that they're supposed to slaughter for Hajj. And some of them didn't have their animals with them. There were those who entered with the intention of the Prophet ﷺ, which is to perform Qiran. Okay? And everybody followed the Prophet ﷺ first and did the Umrah. After the Prophet ﷺ did the sa'i between Safa and Marwa, and he finished with the Marwa, he explained to the people that if I knew what I know now, I would not have brought my sacrificial animal with me. So since the Prophet ﷺ brought his sacrificial animal with him through the miqat, he had to get stuck with Hajj-Qiran. He could not do Hajjet-Tamattu. But those who did not have their animal with them, and those who wanted to do the Hajj only, the Prophet ﷺ commanded them to make this, what they did with him is Umrah, their Umrah, and to exit the Ihram. So those who didn't bring their animals with them, now they had to change their intention after the Umrah and consider the whatever they have done, their Umrah, and exit the Ihram. And then what? Re-enter it on the 8th. So basically the Prophet told them, in normal circumstances, you should not do any other Hajj except Hajjet-Tamattu. And that is one of the reasons, although all these forms of Hajj are correct, okay, but in normal circumstances, we should not think of doing any other type of Hajj except Hajjet-Tamattu. So before we finish, I have some questions here. When can I do Hajj-Qiran? You can do Hajj-Qiran. Let's say, for example, you didn't know and you thought that the Prophet did Hajj-Qiran and you should do Hajj-Qiran. So you took your animal and you went through the miqat. Now you are stuck with Hajj-Qiran. Other than that, you should not think of performing Hajj-Qiran. But the Prophet did Hajj-Qiran. So yes, he did Hajj-Qiran. But what did he say after he performed the Umrah? He said, if I knew at that time what I know now, I would not have brought my sacrificial animal. Which means what? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala delayed the revelation to him, and this is for a hikmah, for a wisdom, to show that the Prophet was bound by the Sharia. So he could not come out of his ihram because he had his animal with him. Why? Because Allah made this rule. When can I do Hajjet-Tamattu? In normal circumstances, you go early, you have some time before the Hajj, you should do Hajjet-Tamattu. You should perform Hajjet-Tamattu, you go and you do the Umrah, you come out of the Ihram, you re-enter on the 8th, the Ihram of the Hajj, and this is your Hajjet-Tamattu. In normal circumstances, you should do Hajjet-Tamattu. When can I do Hajj-Ifrad? Hajj-Ifrad is in situation, for example, a woman, she entered the miqat, her ihram, then she had her menses. So now she goes to Makkah, she cannot perform Umrah because she cannot do the tawaf and sa'i. So what does she do? She continues in her ihram, and then if there is no time before the Hajj, she didn't get clean before the Hajj, she now changes her intention from Hajjet-Tamattu to Hajj-Ifrad, and she performs Hajj-Ifrad, and she goes for the Hajj, she does everything, and she waits until she gets clean. When she comes back to Makkah, she does a tawaf of the Hajj, and then she is done. This is the scenario of Hajj-Ifrad. Another scenario could be for a man who comes late. You started, but then you had a delay with your flight, or somebody got sick after going to Makkah, got to the hospital, he couldn't do Umrah. He's in his ihram, but he couldn't do Umrah. And by the time he got cured, now it is time for Hajj. He doesn't have time to do Umrah. So he directly changes his intention from Hajjet-Tamattu to Hajj-Ifrad, and he directly goes to Mina or wherever the next station is. Provided he must attend the Arafah for some time, at least for some time, on the 9th. Otherwise, if he cannot attend Arafah on that specific time, then he has no Hajj or she has no Hajj. So this is the situation of those who will be compelled to do Hajj-Ifrad. So now we see that Hajj-Ifrad, Hajjet-Tamattu, Hajj-Qiran, all are Hajj. But in normal circumstances, you should not think of doing anything else other than Hajjet-Tamattu, because this is the Hajj the Prophet ﷺ commanded and ordered the Sahabat al-Kiram to do. In fact, those who were in their ihram, as you know that we mentioned this, that they used to consider to be out of ihram in the time of Hajj, in the haram, to be one of the greatest sin. So when the Prophet ﷺ told those companions to come out of the ihram, after they performed the Umrah, it was very difficult for some of them. They would not want to come out of it. And the Prophet was very angry with them. Until, of course, the Sahabat al-Kiram, they, of course, this Sami'na wa ta'na, they submitted to the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and those who didn't bring their sacrificial animal, they came out of their ihram and they obeyed the Prophet ﷺ, and this is why they were the best of the generation. Next question. If I enter with the intention of Qiran, what should I do? Can I change it while I'm inside the miqat? This can happen. that people are unaware of it, and they thought that they were taught maybe that they should do Hajj-Qiran. So they went and did the Umrah with the intention of Qiran, and they didn't have their animal with them. And I remember when I was in the Hajj, I met some brothers from Afghanistan, Kabul, some of the, from those brothers, and they told me that they were doing Quran. So I told them that, are you sure you're coming from Afghanistan? How did you have your animal with you? He said, no. So I said, then you're not doing Hajj Quran. Because Hajj Quran, you will only get stuck with Hajj Quran if you have the animal. So some people are uninformed. And this is, a lot of people are like this, because you see most of the people don't study these things. They just go there and depend upon people, depend upon their Hajj guides, and they make a big mess. Anyway, so let's say that somebody didn't know and they entered with the Hajj Quran intention. They didn't have their animals with them while they entered the miqat. Now, after entering the miqat, performing the umrah, somebody told them, hey, why are you still in your ihram? Didn't you perform your umrah? Said, yes. So why are you? So I'm doing Quran. So how are you doing Quran? You're coming from America or Bangladesh or Pakistan. You didn't bring your animal with you. Did you know I didn't? So what he should do? He should change his intention from Qiran to Tammattu. So he should go and cut his hair and come out of the ihram after the umrah. So this is allowed once you enter, because that's what the Prophet ﷺ told the Sahabat al-Kiram to do. To change the intention from Qiran to Tammattu, from Ifrad to Tammattu, no problem, inshallah. And vice versa also, if you entered with Tammattu, but then you could not do your umrah, you can change from Tammattu to Ifrad. Tammattu to Ifrad, no problem. So here I say, scenario one, I entered with animal. So if you did enter with animal and you're doing Hajj Quran, you're stuck. You cannot do anything except you follow exactly what the Prophet did. Scenario two, I did not enter with the animal. In this case, as I just mentioned, that you change your Tamattu to, your Qiran to Tamattu, as was done by many of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet commanded them to do that. If I enter with the intention of Hajj Ifrad, what should I do? Can I change it while I'm inside the miqat? Okay, so here is the thing. Somebody thought that he might not be able to perform the Umrah. So they said, okay, I'm gonna just make my intention to do the Hajj. He enters the miqat and then he realizes he has time to do the Umrah. He calculated something wrong, whatever, and he has time. So what can he do now? Very simple. He changes his intention of Ifrad to Tamattu, and he performs the Umrah. Then he cuts his hair and he comes out of the ihram, and then on the 8th of Dhul Hijjah, he re-enters the ihram for the Hajj. So all of this is flexible, inshallah ta'ala. When I entered with Hajj Tamattu and was forced to perform Ifrad, what should I do? What if I entered with Tamattu, but I'm forced to perform Ifrad? Like I just gave an example, a patient who became sick while he was in Makkah, or somebody who traveled and got delayed, flight missing, this and that, and then he enters, let's say, Makkah on the 8th, or maybe worst case scenario, 9th. So what he has to do, if he enters on the 9th, he has to basically rush to Arafah, to catch the Arafah. Otherwise, he will miss the Hajj completely. So in this case, very simple. You change your intention from Tamattu to Ifrad. So this changing of the intention, do I have to say anything? You don't have to say nothing. You just know in your heart that you're changing it. That's it. That's it. The Imam said Hajjet-Tamattu is the best, then Hajj-Qiran, and then Hajj Ifrad. Does this mean that I have choice to choose any one of them? No, you don't. In normal circumstances, you should not choose like that. If somebody forcefully chooses, we cannot do anything about it. Okay, but in normal circumstances, after you know the history of the Hajj and what the Prophet recommended to be done, no. Hajjet-Tamattu is the Hajj that you should do in normal circumstances. And as I mentioned, Hajj Quran is possible if you are unaware of it. Okay, Hajj Ifrad is possible if you got stuck and you could not perform your Umrah before the Hajj, then you do Hajj Ifrad, and inshallah all of this Hajj is Sahih. So I hope inshallah that confusion should not be there of should I do Qiran or Tamattu. Now, some people might say that the Prophet did Hajj Qiran. How could you say that I shouldn't do Hajj Qiran? Very simple, because the Prophet himself said, If I know now what I knew before, if I knew what I know now, I would not have brought my sacrificial animal. So in fact, the Prophet ﷺ wanted to do tamattu, but he got stuck with Hajjet-Tamattu because he brought his sacrificial animal with him. And this is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we should not be confused or be scared of the fact that, oh, I'm not doing the best Hajj. You are doing the best Hajj. Hajjet-Tamattu is the best Hajj. And Hajjet-Tamattu is the Hajj that everybody should be doing in the normal circumstances. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.